My dear friends, welcome to Uncagedzootours. If you are new to the channel and love animals, I recommend and appreciate hitting the like and subscribe buttons and the bell icon to join me on my tours. Is everyone here? Good. I have a treat for you today because for the first time in a while, we're going to an aquarium, the Tennessee Aquarium in Chattanooga. Unlike most aquariums I've seen, it's divided into two buildings. One is dedicated to freshwater animals, and the other is dedicated to saltwater and island animals. Our first tour will feature the first three sections of River Journey, which opened in 1992. Here we go! I gotta say though, starting a tour by riding an escalator can hype things up, especially if you visit this place in real life. It's worth noting that most of the building follows the theme of the story of the river, which follows the path of a tiny raindrop from the Appalachian Mountains to the Gulf of Mexico. And that's where we will begin. The Appalachian Cove forest is a great way to start our adventure. There's a black rat snake who is very curious and nosy. You might also see an eastern box turtle, but the stars of this forest are the aquarium's North American river otters. There are 6 otters: Benny, the most active of the bunch, Maya, who loves to explore, Hunter, who is very assertive and loves to climb, Digger, who loves to dig like his name implies, Louie, who is the quiet one, and Sunshine, who is very energetic and the only girl. Even if North American river otters are very common to see in zoos and aquariums, they almost went extinct. Their numbers started to decline in the 1880s due to the fur trade, and the otters almost went extinct in Tennessee by the 1960s. Thanks to conservation and reintroduction efforts, North American river otters are now found throughout most of their historic range. If the aquarium's male otters lived in the wild, they would form an all-male group, while Sunshine would live alone or with her children. You might also see an eastern milk snake, but I feel like giving the spotlight to some rainbow trout, brown trout, and brook trout. Trout in general live in cold water with lots of oxygen, and they serve as a keystone species, as they are both predators and prey to many animals. Speaking of which, trout is a popular game fish and is enjoyed in many different meals. Trout lay their eggs at the bottom of a river, and the babies, or fry, hatch after 4 to 6 weeks. They're not born with scales, and they spend some time in the gravel before they leave and mature. Rivers are home to a ton of fish, like these shiners and rollers. As a river moves through an area, pieces of rock and plants are pulled into the current, and rivers shape the land based on the area's characteristics. The next exhibit is based on a canyon, with tons of waterfalls and deep water, which is great for these smallmouth bass and trout. Speaking of bass, if you are planning to go fishing, be sure to go at sunrise or sunset, because that's when bass are hungry. Depending on the land, there can be a lot of waterfalls, but like some of the other fish, these trout don't mind. But some river fish like to gather in areas called turbulent areas, providing lots of food and hiding places. Our next stop is ridges and rivers. As a river moves, it speeds up or slows down. These changes can create different homes for fish. For example, some fish like minnows and large darters live in a run, where the water's flow is moderate, while larger species like bass live in pools, where the area is deep but the flow is slow. Hey, that's a great rhyme, but let's continue. But smaller fish like darters live in riffles, where the water is fast and shallow. And then there's the big guys, the lake sturgeons. Nice to have you on the show. I haven't talked about them since my streamside and prairie tour at the North Carolina Zoo. Now, despite their prehistoric look, cool looking fins, and scaly bodies, lake sturgeons almost went extinct. Throughout the 1900s, lake sturgeon populations declined due to overfishing, the construction of dams, and pollution. And by the 1970s, they went extinct in Tennessee and the rest of the Southeast. But nowadays, they're making a comeback. Since 2000, the Tennessee Aquarium and other facilities have been raising and releasing sturgeon eggs collected from the northern parts of the United States. As of 2022, over 300,000 lake sturgeons have been reintroduced into Tennessee. If you catch a lake sturgeon, don't keep it as a pet because it's illegal. Please handle them carefully, quickly release them back into the river, and report the catch to the Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency. Also, please don't dump plastic into a river because it harms animals like the sturgeon. I'm sorry for being preachy, but if you visit this aquarium, you might get to pet a sturgeon, just like I did. Brrr, that water is pretty cold. Let's move on to our next section, Delta Country, which is themed after wetlands. Wetlands are seasonal or continuous water saturated by groundwater that supports special plants. There are 4 different types of wetlands: marshes, swamps, bogs, and fens. Swamps are wetlands that are always filled with water, and many animals like these turtles are adapted for life in the water. But when I think of swamps, American alligators are one of the best examples of a swamp animal. Some of the gators here are juveniles, but when they were babies, they were fiercely protected by their mom, who protects them from raccoons, Florida panthers, birds, and even other alligators. That's right, alligators are cannibals, which means they eat their own kind. When they mature, males can reach up to 15 feet long, while females can reach up to 9 feet. Unlike most crocodilians, alligators walk with their legs underneath their bodies because they sometimes walk on land. If you want to visit the aquarium, you might be really lucky to get some great footage of an alligator close to the glass. But the gators and turtles aren't alone in Delta Country. The next exhibit has hooded mergansers, a soft-shell turtle, and even wood ducks. The wood duck's scientific name, Ilex sponsa, means bird in wedding dress, which is a reference to the male's beautiful feathers. There can be up to 15 eggs in one nest because females work together to raise eggs. When the ducklings hatch, they have to jump because the nest is in a tree. But don't worry, Mama Duck helps her children jump, and the ducklings remain unharmed because they land in the water. Our final section for now is river giants, which has several different catfish, along with a few others. But here's our first arapaima. Its name may sound like a bird, but it's one of the world's largest freshwater fish. Their young can hide in their parents' mouth when predators are nearby, and they can even breathe air. Like most fish, they have gills, but they also have a modified swim bladder which acts like our lungs. Arapaima swallow air from the surface and use that to absorb oxygen. These fish are amazing, and if you ask me, seeing a big fish is a great way to end off our first look at the Tennessee Aquarium. Now it's time to vote. This time, you get to decide on the next tour. Which of these 3 tours would you like to see next? Would you like to visit the Louisville's award-winning islands? We'll see little blue penguins, pelicans, a baby babirusa, and some very active fruit bats. We'll even get close to an orangutan, a macaw, and a crocodile. Our second option is the Bronx Zoo's Mouse House, where we'll meet some of the world's cutest and most misunderstood rodents. We'll also meet our first elephant shrews and even chinchillas. Our third and final choice is the Elephant Reserve at the Cincinnati Zoo, where we'll learn about the zoo's past, present, and future with its Asian elephants. Thank you for watching my videos, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day.